Have you ever felt like the world is just too much? Like you're standing in the middle of a hurricane of notifications, shifting trends, and a future that seems to change every time you blink? Most of us live with a quiet, underlying anxiety that life is fundamentally chaotic. We feel like we're constantly reacting to a series of random accidents. We're bracing for the next market crash, the next tech disruption, the next personal crisis. We've become exhausted from trying to manage a world that feels like it has no floor. But what if I told you that beneath the noise, nothing is actually moving as randomly as you think? What if there is a structure, a silent mathematical heartbeat that governs everything from the way a leaf falls to the way your own life unfolds? Today we're looking at a man who saw the world not as a mess, but as a masterpiece of logic. He was a loner, a reclusive genius, and perhaps the greatest mind to ever walk the earth. He didn't find the truth in a crowded room or a busy office. He found it in the silence of an empty garden, while the world around him was literally falling apart. His name was Isaac Newton. We're moving beyond the gravity and the calculus to find something much deeper, the inner shift from a life of reaction to a life of alignment. Before we get to the laws of motion, you need to understand who this man actually was. Imagine a young student in the mid-1600s, quiet and intensely private. When a great plague swept through London, closing the universities and sending everyone into a panic, Newton didn't spend his time in fear. He retreated to his family farm in Woolsthorpe. In that forced isolation, a period he called his Annus Mirabilis, or Year of Wonders, he laid the foundation for modern science. While the rest of the world was in chaos, Newton was in the deep work. He was an explorer of the invisible. He wasn't just a physicist. He was a man obsessed with the source code of the universe. He spent more time studying ancient theology and alchemy than he did gravity. He believed that if he could just look closely enough at the patterns of nature, he would see the mind of the Creator. He took the name of a scientist, but he lived with the soul of a mystic. He found that the universe doesn't reveal its secrets to the busy, it reveals them to the attentive. And that is the first shift he offers us. Your power isn't in your speed, it's in your stillness. We've all heard the story of the apple falling on his head. It's become a bit of a cliché, a lucky accident that changed history. But Newton himself had a different explanation. When people asked him how he discovered the laws of the universe, he didn't talk about luck. He said, "I keep the subject constantly before me and wait until the first dawnings open little by little into the full light." Think about the discipline in that. In a world where we can't go 10 minutes without checking a screen, Newton would hold a single mathematical problem in his mind for months. He wouldn't let go until the truth surrendered. The apple didn't give him the idea of gravity. The apple was just the final piece of a puzzle he had been staring at with absolute, unwavering attention. In our modern culture, we think intelligence is about how fast you can process information. Newton teaches us that real intelligence is about how long you can hold information without flinching. The crack in our modern lives is that our attention is fragmented. We are broad but thin. Newton was a needle, narrow, sharp, and capable of piercing the fabric of reality. He shows us that if you want to find the unmoving truth in your life, you have to stop looking for new things and start looking deeper at the things already in front of you. Newton's greatest gift to us was the clockwork universe. He showed us that the world is not a series of miracles or accidents, it is a system of laws. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. This isn't just physics, it's a psychological mirror. If you feel like the world is pushing against you, Newton would ask, "Where are you pushing?" If you feel exhausted, perhaps it's because you're trying to move against the grain of the universal laws. You're trying to force a result rather than understanding the conditions required for that result to appear. Newton saw that when you align yourself with the truth, you don't need to exert as much effort. A planet doesn't try to orbit the sun. It simply follows the curve of space. When we stop fighting reality, when we stop wishing for things to be different and start understanding why they are the way they are, we find a stability that no storm can shake. We move from being victims of circumstance to being students of law. But don't mistake this for a life of passive submission. Newton's laws aren't a set of rules imposed upon you by a cold, distant universe. They are the very fabric of what you are. You see, the inner shift here isn't about forced acceptance. It's about deep recognition. When we look at the stars, we often feel small, separate, and insignificant. But Newton saw that the same force holding the moon in its orbit is the same force that moves the blood through your veins. There is no out there and in here. There is only one unbroken movement. When you look at your life through this lens, you realize that you aren't just an observer of the universe. You are the universe in motion. You are a unique, once-in-an-eternity expression of a vast, intelligent field. Every atom in your body was forged in the heart of a dying star. It took billions of years, countless coincidences, and an infinite amount of what we might call love or care for you to be standing here, breathing at this very moment. You don't need to obey the laws of nature any more than a wave needs to obey the ocean. You are the ocean. When you truly see this connection, the ideas of fighting reality or submitting to it start to fade away. Why would you fight what you are? Why would you fear the laws that sustain your very existence? Real clarity is understanding that you are already whole. You are a sacred part of a sacred whole, and there has never been a moment of separation. When you stop seeing yourself as a separate entity trying to win against the world, and start seeing yourself as a part of the world's natural harmony, life stops being a struggle. It becomes a dance. You move gently not because you are afraid of the reaction, but because you have finally understood the beauty of the rhythm. You live in harmony not because you have to, but because you have finally realized that there is no other place to be. You are the architect, the order, and the chaos, all at once. Now, let's bring this into your life right now. We live in an age of artificial mind. We are surrounded by algorithms that are designed to keep us in a state of constant reaction. The world wants you to be a force that is always moving, always consuming, always doing. And because we've lost the sense of an unmoving truth, we feel incredibly fragile. If the algorithm changes, our business fails. If the trend shifts, our identity collapses. We are like leaves in a windstorm, terrified because we've forgotten we are part of a tree with deep, ancient roots. The Newtonian shift for the modern person is to realize that chaos is an illusion born of shallow observation. Think about your own life. When you look back at your failures or your accidents, can you see the laws at work now? Can you see how every reaction was actually a response to an action you took or a belief you held? In this hyper-connected era, our greatest challenge is to protect our Woolsthorpe, our private garden of contemplation. If you don't have a space where the noise stops, you will never see the patterns. You will spend your entire life being moved by external forces, never realizing that the power to move the world is already inside your own ability to be still. Newton didn't change the world by being busy. He changed it by being clear. There's a common misunderstanding we often fall into when we hear about Newton's isolation at Woolsthorpe. We imagine that clarity is something that only happens somewhere else, in a quiet garden, far away from the pressures of our actual lives. We think we have to escape the noise, withdraw from society, or wait for the perfect silent moment before the truth can finally show itself. But Newton's life teaches us something far more radical. Truth does not wait for ideal conditions. If you look closely at his laws of motion, you'll realize they weren't discovered in a vacuum. They were discovered by observing the world as it is, in all its complexity. Newton didn't find order by ignoring the chaos. He found the order within the chaos. He saw that the same gravity that pulls an apple in a quiet orchard is the very same force holding the planets together in the vast, violent vacuum of space. This is the shift we need right now. The modern world feels overwhelming not because the truth is missing, but because our attention has become scattered. We've been conditioned to believe that if our lives are loud or fractured, we are somehow blocked from seeing clearly. But silence isn't a place you reach. Silence is what happens when your perception becomes whole. You don't need a slower world or a protected space to find your center. Every frustration you feel in traffic, every moment of conflict in your relationships, every sense of emptiness in your career, these are not obstacles to the truth. They are the clues. They are invitations to look more closely at the laws of action and reaction playing out in real time. When you stop resisting the noise of your life and start observing it without judgment, the chaos begins to reveal its hidden value. Much of what we call confusion today is simply the collapse of our outdated ideas about how life should be. And as Newton saw through the prism, it is only when the light is refracted, when it is broken, that we can finally see the full spectrum of its beauty. You don't need to retreat from the world to understand it. You just need to stop fighting what it's trying to reveal to you right now. The truth isn't hiding. It's showing itself continuously in the rhythm of your own breath and the patterns of your own choices. It's not about finding a quiet life. It's about finding the quiet inside the life you already have. So, as you step back into the noise today, take a lesson from the man who saw the invisible. Stop trying to manage the chaos. You can't. Instead, start looking for the order. Notice the reactions to your actions. Notice the patterns in your thoughts. And most importantly, notice the silence that exists beneath the ticking of the clock. You are not a victim of a random universe. You are a conscious participant in a world of profound, beautiful, and unchanging laws. When you find the unmoving place inside yourself, that center of attention that doesn't waver when the world shakes, you become, like Newton, an architect of order. The light is getting in through the cracks of this chaotic age. It's telling us that it's time to stop running and start seeing. This has been What We Are. A space for those who seek to see clearly, to think deeply, and to live with awareness. If this exploration of Isaac Newton helped you find a little more ground beneath your feet, share it with someone who is currently navigating the noise. Subscribe to join us as we continue to reveal timeless truths through the voices of those who truly saw. Thank you for your attention. It is the force that reveals the world. And until next time, stay awake to the order beneath the chaos. You've probably felt it, that quiet, nagging pressure to be whole, to have the perfect career, the perfect relationship, the perfect mental health. We live in a culture that treats brokenness like a system error. If you're anxious, fix it. If you're sad, medicate it. If your life doesn't look like a polished gallery, hide it. We've spent years building these perfect versions of ourselves, and yet somehow we've never felt more fragile. Why? Because the harder you try to be a seamless, unbreakable object, the more terrified you become of the first inevitable scratch. But what if you were told that the scratch isn't the problem? What if the broken parts of you were actually the only parts through which life could finally reach you? Today, we're looking at a man who spent 82 years exploring the basement of the human soul. He was a poet, a ladies' man, a failed novelist, and eventually, a Zen monk. His name was Leonard Cohen. He didn't offer us a way to be perfect. He offered us something much better, a way to be broken and still be a masterpiece. As he famously wrote, "There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." If you've been feeling like things are falling apart, stay with me. We're going to find out why that might be the best thing that ever happened to you. Leonard Cohen was born in Montreal in 1934, but for the sake of our conversation, he was born the moment he realized that his pain wasn't a mistake, it was his material. In the 1960s, while everyone else was singing about revolution and sunshine, Cohen was writing about the beautiful losers. He was obsessed with the parts of us that don't win, the parts that regret, the parts that bleed. In America, we are taught to be winners. We are taught that the self is a project to be optimized. But Cohen saw the self as a landscape of ruins, and he loved the ruins. He didn't look at depression as a disease to be cured, but as a frequency to be tuned into. He called himself the high priest of pathos, not because he wanted to stay sad, but because he knew that if you run away from your shadows, they only grow longer. He spent his life in a room with his demons, asking them questions instead of trying to exorcise them. And that is the first inner shift he offers us. Stop treating your suffering as an interruption to your life, and start treating it as the content of your life. When you stop fighting the fact that you are struggling, the struggle changes shape. It loses its teeth. It becomes a teacher instead of an enemy. In the mid-90s, at the height of a renewed fame, Leonard Cohen did something very un-American. He disappeared. He went to Mount Baldy, a Zen center outside Los Angeles. He spent 5 years there. He didn't go there to write hit songs. He went there to be a cook for an old Zen master named Kyozen Joshu Sasaki. He spent his days scrubbing floors, shoveling snow, and sitting in silence. Think about that. One of the most celebrated poets of the century, spending his 60s cleaning toilets in the freezing cold. He took the name Jikin, which means silence. Why? Because Cohen realized that the ego, the Leonard Cohen that the world loved, was a heavy coat he was tired of wearing. He wanted to see what was left when the identity was stripped away. He found that the silence didn't give him answers. It gave him something harder. It showed him that there was no bottom to his problems. He was still the same man, still depressed, still flawed. But here's the shift. In the monastery, he learned that you don't have to be healed to be at peace. Most of us wait for a day when we'll finally be fixed, when we'll be confident, calm, and together. Cohen's time in the monastery taught him that the broken version of you is just as capable of peace as the perfect version. Peace isn't the absence of flaws. It's the absence of the war against those flaws. But let's look closer at what that war actually looks like in our lives today. For most of us, the war is disguised as self-improvement. We wake up every morning and look in the mirror, not at a human being, but at a project that needs constant upgrades. We think, if I can just meditate enough, if I can just read enough books, if I can just find the right therapist, I will finally reach a version of myself that doesn't hurt. We treat our inner shadows like enemies to be defeated. Cohen, at 60, realized that this pursuit was the very thing keeping him exhausted. On Mount Baldy, the silence he practiced wasn't a peaceful, spa-like retreat. It was a confrontation. When you remove the distraction of fame, the distraction of alcohol, the distraction of complicated romances, what is left? Most people expect to find God or enlightenment in that silence. Cohen found his own uncurable depression. But here is the profound insight. He found that he could be depressed and still be useful. He could be flawed and still be present. He realized that the Zen master didn't care about his poems. The master cared if the soup was hot and the floor was clean. This is a massive shift for the modern mind. We believe that we are only worthy when we are operating at 100% capacity. We think we have to earn our right to be at peace by being fixed. Cohen's Life on That Mountain says otherwise. It says that the man scrubbing the toilet with a heavy heart is just as sacred as the man singing on a stage with a full heart. In the monastery, he wasn't trying to become a better Leonard Cohen. He was trying to stop being Leonard Cohen altogether. He found that when you stop defending the idea of yourself, the successful poet, the romantic legend, you stop being so easily offended by life. If you don't have a high image of yourself to maintain, you don't have to worry about that image cracking. Think about the relief in that. Think about the energy you spend every day trying to keep your code of identity clean and unwrinkled for the world to see. Imagine just taking it off, hanging it on a tree and walking into the cold air as a nobody. Cohen found that in being a nobody, he finally found the somebody that could actually survive the world. He wasn't healed of his sadness, he was healed of his resistance to sadness. And in that surrender, the silence finally started to speak. We have to talk about his most famous work because it's the most misunderstood song in American history. Hallelujah isn't a church hymn. It's a song about the debris of a life. It's a song about sexual failure, religious doubt, and the cold reality of a broken relationship. When Cohen sings, it's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah, he's making a radical philosophical point. Most people think a hallelujah is something you shout when you win, when you get the job, when you find the love, when you feel the light. But Cohen says the real hallelujah, the one that actually matters, is the one you utter when you've lost everything. When you're standing in the ruins of your plans and you still say yes to existence. It's easy to be grateful when things are good. That's not wisdom, that's just reaction. Real wisdom is the ability to stand in the middle of a broken moment, a divorce, a failure, a loss, and acknowledge that this too is part of the sacred whole. The broken hallelujah is the highest form of human maturity. It's saying, I am hurt, I am confused, I am failing, and yet, I am here. And being here is enough. Now, let's get to the core of that famous line. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. In 2026, we are obsessed with wholeness. We use technology to airbrush our lives. We use social media to present a seamless facade. But a seamless surface is a wall. If you are perfect, nothing can get out of you and nothing can get into you. You are a closed system. You are a tomb. It is only through the cracks, the failures, the embarrassments, the moments where you were forced to your knees, that you actually become permeable. When you fail, your ego breaks. And when the ego breaks, empathy can finally enter. Humility can enter. Reality can enter. Think about the most profound people you know. Are they the ones who have had a perfect, uncracked life? Probably not. They are usually the ones who have been broken and had to find a way to let the light through those gaps. Leonard Cohen is telling us to stop trying to seal the cracks. If you have a crack in your mental health, if you have a crack in your career, if you have a crack in your heart, don't rush to glue it back together. Sit with the gap. Look at what is coming through it. The light doesn't enter through your strengths. It enters through your vulnerabilities. To truly understand what Cohen meant by the light in the crack, we can look to an ancient Japanese tradition called kintsugi. When a piece of pottery breaks, most cultures see it as trash. Its value is gone because its perfection is gone. But in kintsugi, the craftsman does something radical. They don't try to hide the cracks. They don't use clear glue to make the vase look new again. Instead, they repair the breaks with lacquer mixed with powdered gold. The result is a vessel where the scars are the most prominent feature. The gold doesn't just fix the break, it illuminates it. The object becomes more beautiful, more valuable, and more durable because it was broken. It tells a story of survival. In 2026, we are the broken pottery, but we are desperately trying to use invisible glue. Think about how this shows up in your life. Maybe it's a career path that didn't go as planned. You're 35 or 45, and you're not where the LinkedIn version of you was supposed to be. You feel like a failure. Or maybe it's a divorce that left you feeling like a fragmented version of who you used to be. You spend all your energy trying to hide those cracks from your friends, from your family, from your Instagram followers. You want them to see the seamless vase, not the gold-filled scars. But here is the truth Cohen wants us to see. A person without cracks is impossible to connect with. Have you ever met someone who seemed to have it all together? Perfect skin, perfect home, perfect kids, perfect opinions. How did you feel around them? You probably felt smaller. You probably felt the need to hide your own mess. You couldn't get into their life because there was no opening. But then think about the person who sits across from you and says, "I'm struggling. I don't know if I'm doing this right. I feel lost sometimes." In that moment, a crack appears. And through that crack, you finally see their light. You feel a rush of relief because their vulnerability gives you permission to be human too. That is the light getting in. Modern life in the mid-2020s is a high-speed race toward an artificial wholeness. We have AI to fix our photos, algorithms to curate our thoughts, and a relentless pressure to optimize our souls. But optimization is the enemy of intimacy. You cannot love a machine because a machine has no cracks. You can only love a human being, and a human being is, by definition, a broken thing held together by gold. Cohen's music is that gold. He doesn't tell you that you'll be fine. He tells you that the not being fine is where your value actually lives. If you're sitting there today feeling less than because you've made mistakes, or because you're carrying a trauma that won't go away, or because you're just tired of the act, stop. Stop trying to find the clear glue. Look at your cracks and ask yourself, what kind of gold can I fill this with? Maybe the gold is honesty. Maybe the gold is a new kind of career that values your lived experience over your resume. Maybe the gold is a deeper relationship with your children because you've finally shown them your real, unairbrushed face. The light is waiting for an opening. Don't deny it the only way in. Toward the end of his life, Cohen reached a state of serenity that wasn't based on happiness. It was based on disinterest in himself. He realized that he was just a guest in his own life. He didn't own his talent. He didn't own his pain. He was just a witness to it. In a world where we are told to take ownership and be the CEO of our lives, Cohen's advice is the opposite. Let go of the steering wheel. He famously said, "I don't have any control over my life. I'm just a guest here." When you see yourself as a guest, the pressure disappears. If the guest is sad, that's okay. Guests don't have to fix the house. They just have to occupy it. This is the ultimate inner shift for the modern American. We are exhausted from trying to fix the house of our lives. We are tired of the constant maintenance of the self. Cohen invites us to just be the guest, to watch the thoughts, to feel the feelings, but to stop believing that they define us. He died in 2016, just as the world was becoming louder and more chaotic. But his voice remained steady, because he had already survived the worst thing that could happen. He had survived his own ego. So, where does this leave you today? Maybe you're listening to this and you feel like you're cracking. Maybe you feel like the life you've built is showing its age, its flaws, its gaps. Good. According to Leonard Cohen, that's exactly where you need to be. Stop trying to be a perfect, polished version of yourself. That person doesn't exist. And even if they did, they would be incredibly boring and very lonely. Embrace the broken hallelujah. Accept that your life is messy, that your heart is scarred, and that you don't have all the answers. The goal isn't to be fixed. The goal is to be present in the middle of the mess. Because it is in that mess, in those very cracks you're so ashamed of, where the only light worth having is actually shining. You are not a mistake. You are a work of art in progress. And the cracks are where the soul shows through. Take a breath. Look at your flaws. And for once, don't try to change them. Just let the light in. This has been What We Are, a space for the broken, the curious, and the brave. If this exploration of Leonard Cohen's wisdom touched something in you today, I'd be honored if you shared it. There is likely someone in your life right now who feels broken and needs to hear that they are actually just becoming transparent. Subscribe to join us as we continue to look through the eyes of those who truly saw. Thank you for your attention. It is the rarest form of love. And until next time, stay awake to the light in the cracks. We live in a world of conditions. From the moment we wake up, we are navigating a complex web of ifs. If I work hard, I will be successful. If people like me, I will be happy. If I am right and they are wrong, I will be safe. Our lives have become a constant negotiation, a transactional game where we only offer our peace, our kindness, and our love when the conditions are met. But this way of living has left us exhausted. In this age of instant judgment and digital division, we have become masters of the border. We draw lines between us and them, between good and bad, and we spend our lives defending those lines. We are tired of the constant war of the ego, the need to be right, the fear of being small, and the hollow feeling of only being loved for what we do rather than who we are. But what if there was a different way to inhabit this world? A way that doesn't depend on conditions. Today we are looking at a figure who is often buried under centuries of religious dogma, but whose core message remains the most radical inner shift in human history. He wasn't just a teacher, he was a master of a specific state of consciousness, a state where the barriers of the ego dissolve. His name was Jesus. We are moving beyond the religion to find the revolution of the heart, the shift from a life of transaction to a life of grace. To understand Jesus, we have to look past the stained glass in the cathedrals. Imagine a man walking through a world of extreme rigidness, a world of strict laws, social hierarchies, and deep-seated hatreds. In that world, Jesus did something unheard of. He didn't just tell people to be nice. He told them that the kingdom they were looking for wasn't in the future, and it wasn't a place you had to earn. He said, "The kingdom is within you." He was an explorer of the inner reality. He recognized that every human being, regardless of their status, their mistakes, or their beliefs, was a direct expression of the same divine source. He looked at the outcast, the sinner, and the enemy, and he didn't see a label. He saw a brother. He saw himself. He didn't take the name of a king. He lived with the soul of a servant. He found that the universe doesn't reveal its depth to the powerful. It reveals it to the broken. And that is the first shift he offers us. Your value isn't something you build, it's something you recognize. In our modern culture, we think of love as a feeling, something that happens to us when someone treats us well. It's a reward. We give it when someone deserves it, and we take it away when they don't. But Jesus introduced a concept that breaks the human brain: agape. Agape isn't an emotion, it's a position. It is the decision to remain in a state of goodwill toward all of existence, regardless of how existence treats you. Think about the discipline in that. In a world where we can't go a day without feeling offended by a comment or a headline, Jesus taught the practice of turning the other cheek. This isn't about being a doormat, it's about internal sovereignty. If your peace depends on how people treat you, you are a slave to everyone you meet. But if you choose to remain in love, not as a feeling but as a commitment to see the light in others even when they are in darkness, you become truly free. The crack in our modern lives is that we are starving for unconditional love, yet we only offer conditional love to others. We are trapped in a cycle of "I will love you if." Jesus shows us that the only way to find peace is to move to "I love you because I am love." But what does this actually look like in your life right now? How do you practically move from a transaction to a position? Imagine you're scrolling through your feed and you see someone, maybe a public figure or a distant acquaintance, saying something that feels like a direct attack on your values. The biological reaction is instant. Your chest tightens, your brain starts crafting a witty, sharp rebuttal, and you feel a surge of righteous anger. In that moment, your love and your peace have been taken hostage. You've let their darkness dictate your light. Moving to the position of "I love you because I am love" means choosing a different internal response. It's the realization that your kindness is not a reward for their good behavior. It is a manifestation of your own character. It's looking at that person and seeing not an enemy, but a human being who is also navigating their own confusion, their own pain, and their own brokenness. When you say, "I am love," you are claiming your internal sovereignty. You are saying, "My capacity to be compassionate is a gift I give to myself. I refuse to let your chaos become my chaos." Think about your relationships, with your partner, your parents, or your co-workers. Most of our conflicts arise because we are waiting for the other person to change so that we can finally feel at peace. We say, "I'll be kind to you as soon as you stop being so difficult." This is the trap of the transaction. Jesus' radical shift is to realize that you can be the source rather than the reflector. To love, because you are love, means you bring the warmth to the room instead of waiting for the room to warm you up. It's like being a sun that shines because it is its nature to shine, not because the earth deserved the light today. In today's world, this is the ultimate power move. It's the only way to break the cycle of cancel culture and digital resentment. When you choose to see the light in others, even when they are hiding it under layers of anger or ignorance, you are practicing a high-level form of agape. You are realizing that their behavior is a reflection of their state of mind, but your reaction is a reflection of yours. This shift transforms your entire reality. You stop being a victim of how people treat you and start being a witness to how you can remain whole. You move from a life of "I need" to a life of "I have." You find that when you stop demanding that the world be a certain way for you to be happy, you finally have the freedom to actually enjoy the world as it is. You aren't just loving someone, you are inhabiting the very nature of existence itself, a force that provides the air, the sun, and the life force to everyone without asking for a resume or a justification first. You are no longer a separate fragment fighting for a piece of the pie. You have become the pie. You are love not because of what you do, but because that is what you are. Jesus' greatest gift to us was the Sermon on the Mount. He told us to look at the lilies of the field and the birds of the air. He showed us that the world is not a series of problems to be solved, but a flow of life to be trusted. Do not worry about tomorrow, he said. This isn't just a comforting thought, it's a psychological mirror. If you feel anxious, it's because you are living in a future that hasn't happened yet. You are trying to control a result, rather than trusting the source that sustains your very breath. Jesus saw that when you align yourself with the present moment, you find a wealth that no bank account can hold. You realize that you are already provided for. You are a part of a sacred rhythm. When we stop fighting the what is, when we stop wishing for our lives to be different and start seeing the sacredness in our current struggle, we find a stability that no storm can shake. We move from being victims of lack to being witnesses of abundance. But let's get very practical about this. What does it actually mean to not worry about tomorrow when you have bills to pay, a career to build, and a family to protect in 2026? Jesus wasn't suggesting that we become irresponsible or passive. He was pointing to a fundamental inner shift in where we place our attention. Think about the last time you felt a wave of anxiety. If you look closely, you'll see that your mind had left your body. You were mentally time-traveling into a simulated future, a what-if scenario where things go wrong. In that moment, you are trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist yet, using energy that you need for right now. When Jesus told us to look at the lilies and the birds, he was giving us a masterclass in presence. A lily doesn't stress about whether it will bloom as beautifully as the one next to it. It doesn't check a forecast for next week's rain. It simply inhabits the fullness of its own being right now. It trusts the source, the soil, the sun, the internal intelligence of life, to provide what is necessary for its current step. In your life today, this means shifting from a project-based existence to a process-based existence. Imagine you are working on a difficult project at your office or in your studio. The old way, the worry way, is to be constantly obsessed with the end result. Will this be successful? What will people think? What if I fail? This state of mind is a form of lack. You are essentially telling yourself that you are not okay until the result is achieved. The radical heart way is to bring your entire consciousness into the act itself. To trust that if you are fully present with the email you are writing, the edit you are making, or the conversation you are having, the tomorrow will take care of itself. Because tomorrow is just a collection of nows. If you win the now, you have already won the future. This trust is the ultimate wealth. It's the realization that you are not an isolated fragment fighting for survival in a hostile universe. You are a sacred part of a sacred rhythm. When you stop fighting what is, even when what is feels like a struggle, you stop leaking your power. Think about a moment of struggle in your life, right, Gio? Maybe it's a financial tight spot or a creative block. Instead of wishing it away, which is just another form of resisting life, what if you looked at it as a lily's moment? What if you trusted that the same intelligence that keeps the planets in orbit and the cells in your body regenerating is also present in this challenge? When you align with the present, you realize that you have everything you need to take the very next step. And that is all life ever asks of you. Not to solve the next 10 years, but to inhabit the next 10 seconds. This is where stability comes from. It's not the stability of a bank account, which can vanish in a market crash. It's the stability of the witness. You move from asking, "How will I survive?" to "How can I be fully here?" And in that shift, the lack disappears. You find that you are already provided for, not because you have everything you want, but because you have realized that you are everything life requires. You have moved from a state of hunger to a state of abundance, simply by coming home to the only moment that has ever truly existed. Now let's bring this into your life right now. We live in an age of digital division. We are surrounded by algorithms that are designed to keep us in a state of constant judgment. The world wants you to be a side, to pick a team, to hate the other, to be outraged. And because we've lost the sense of our shared humanity, we feel incredibly lonely. We are like branches that have been cut off from the tree, terrified because we've forgotten we all share the same roots. The Jesus shift for the modern person is to realize that separation is an illusion born of the ego. Think about your own life. When you judge someone, do you feel more at peace? Or do you feel a wall rising inside your own heart? In this hyper-connected era, our greatest challenge is to protect our inner sanctuary, our capacity to see with eyes of grace. If you don't have a space where the judgment stops, you will never see the truth. You will spend your entire life being moved by the anger of others, never realizing that the power to heal the world is already inside your own ability to forgive. There is a common misunderstanding we often fall into when we hear about unconditional love. We imagine it's something for saints, something that happens only when we are perfect. We think we have to get rid of our anger, our shadows, or our flaws before we can truly love or be loved. But Jesus' life teaches us something far more radical. Grace does not wait for perfection. Truth reveals itself precisely where life feels most broken. It appears in the manger, the low, messy, and ignored parts of our experience. Jesus didn't find the truth by ignoring the suffering of the world. He found the order within the suffering. He saw that the same spirit that animates the highest heavens is the very same spirit that weeps in the eyes of the lonely. This is the shift we need right now. The modern world feels empty not because God is missing, but because our hearts have become closed. We've been conditioned to believe that if we are flawed, we are blocked from the sacred. But love is not a place you reach. Love is what happens when your resistance to reality becomes whole. You don't need a better life or a better version of yourself to find your center. Every mistake you've made, every moment of shame, every sense of brokenness, these are not obstacles to the truth. They are the doorways. They are invitations to see that you are loved exactly as you are, right now, in the middle of your mess. When you stop resisting the darkness of your life and start embracing it with compassion, the chaos begins to reveal its hidden beauty. You realize that you are a unique, once-in-an-eternity expression of a vast, intelligent love. It took billions of years for you to be here. You are a sacred part of a sacred whole, and there has never been a moment of separation. So, as you step back into the noise today, take a lesson from the man who saw only brothers. Stop trying to manage your worth. You can't. Instead, start looking for the grace that is already there. Notice the moments where you can choose kindness over judgment. Notice the warmth in your own heart when you let go of the need to be right. And most importantly, notice the kingdom that exists beneath the surface of your daily stress. You are not a victim of a cruel universe. You are a conscious participant in a world of profound, beautiful, and unchanging love. When you find the place of grace inside yourself, that center of awareness that doesn't waver when the world judges, you become, like Jesus, a rebel of the heart. The light is getting in through the cracks of this cynical age. It's telling us that it's time to stop fighting and start loving. This has been What We Are. A space for those who seek to see clearly, to think deeply, and to live with awareness. If this exploration of Jesus Christ helped you find a little more ground beneath your feet, share it with someone who is currently navigating the noise. Subscribe to join us as we continue to reveal timeless truths through the voices of those who truly saw. Thank you for your attention. It is the force that reveals the world. And until next time, stay awake to the love beneath the chaos. Where are you right now? Not the city, not the room. But right now, the moment you're in. Can you find it? If you try to grasp it, it's already gone. The second you say, now, it's already then. And yet, somehow, you never leave it. You've never been anywhere but now. So what is this strange thing we call time? This invisible current that carries every life, every dream, every heartbeat, from birth to death, like leaves on a river that never stops flowing. Einstein once said, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." And though he was speaking as a physicist, his words seemed to echo something the Buddha hinted at 2,500 years ago, that all things, including time, are empty of fixed existence. But if time is an illusion, why does it feel so real? Let's start here, in something ordinary. Imagine you're watching the sun set. The sky blushes with color, clouds stretch thin and glowing. For a moment, you're just there, breathing, watching. Then, a thought appears, this is beautiful. And in that instant, the moment divides. There's now you, the one who sees, and the sunset, the thing being seen. And behind them both, quietly ticking, there's time, the sense that this beauty is already slipping away. You reach for your phone, maybe take a picture, trying to keep it. But the act of keeping only reminds you that it's passing. And so the more we hold on, the faster it seems to go. That's the paradox of time. The tighter we grasp it, the less we have. In physics, time is woven into the fabric of space, what Einstein called space-time. It bends, stretches, slows, and folds depending on where you stand, how fast you move, how massive the world around you is. From the point of view of relativity, there isn't a single universal now. Every observer has their own slice of reality, their own timeline. Two people can see the same event, yet disagree on when it happened, and both be right. It's as if the universe is a vast, four-dimensional painting, already complete, past, present, and future coexisting in a single, silent whole. We don't travel through time, we unfold through it, revealing one frame after another, like moving a flashlight slowly across a still landscape. But this raises a deeper question. If the future already exists, and the past never really leaves, what is this thing we call the present? In Buddhist thought, the present isn't a point between past and future, it's the only reality there is. Time, from this view, isn't a line but a mirage, a projection of mind. When we remember, that's thought. When we anticipate, that's thought too. Even the idea of now, that tiny that we cling to, is a concept. What's real, before thought names it, before the mind divides it? Notice your breath right now. Inhale. Exhale. If you look closely, you'll find that you never actually start a breath or finish one. It's a continuous movement, always becoming. There's no edge to the present. It's not something that begins or ends. It's an open field that includes everything: the past, the future, the feeling of time passing, all inside itself. A Zen teacher once described it this way, though I'll put it in my own words. Time is like a firefly in the dark. We see its light flash on and off and believe it's moving. But maybe the light never moves. Maybe it's our mind that flickers. Einstein and the Buddha were born in worlds that couldn't have been more different, one steeped in mathematics and reason, the other in silence and meditation. Yet both seem to whisper the same mystery. The flow of time is not out there. It's the movement of awareness itself. In physics, time dilates, it slows down near light speed. In consciousness, it dilates too. A minute of panic can feel like an hour of joy can vanish in a heartbeat. What we call time might be nothing more than the rhythm of experience, the way awareness measures its own changes. Have you ever noticed how time behaves when you stop naming it? Think of those rare moments when you forget yourself completely, watching the rain, or listening to someone you love laugh. For that moment, there's no clock. No before, no after. Only presence, wide, clear, unbroken. Then, as soon as you think, this is timeless, the spell breaks. Because the thought belongs to time, awareness itself does not. Western science tells us that our brains construct a sense of temporal flow, stitching together sensory moments like frames in a film, creating the illusion of motion. But consciousness, the screen on which the film plays, doesn't move. It's always now. This isn't something to believe, it's something to notice. Right now, as you listen, this voice, these words, they seem to arrive one after another. But the hearing of them happens in a single, seamless awareness. There's no gap between sounds, only the illusion of sequence. The mind experiences the movie of time, but the screen is eternally still. If that's true, if the present never ends, then death itself might not be what we think it is. Einstein once wrote a letter to the family of a friend who had passed away. He said, "He has merely preceded us a little." For us believing physicists, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubborn illusion. Perhaps what he meant was this: that life and death are two names for movements within the same unbroken whole. That from the view of the timeless, nothing ever really goes away. It only changes appearance, like clouds rearranging in the same sky. In the stillness beneath time, all things are already home. And yet, even knowing this, we live inside the story of time, waking, working, aging, dreaming. We mark birthdays, mourn anniversaries, chase deadlines. There's a beauty in that too, because without the illusion of time, we might never learn tenderness. We care precisely because things pass. We love because we know we can lose. Maybe the point isn't to escape time, but to see through it, to hold both truths at once. That everything changes, and that nothing ever truly leaves. To live as if every moment matters. And to know, quietly, that there is only one moment, and it never ends. So, how would your life feel if you stopped measuring it? If instead of chasing minutes, you listened for the space between them? What if you lived not in time, but as time, the unfolding of presence itself? Maybe then, you'd find that you were never running out of time. You were only running away from the stillness that contains it. And that stillness, that simple, silent awareness you feel now, has never aged, never begun, never stopped. It's been here since before you were born. It will be here long after your thoughts fade. It's not in the moment, it is the moment. So, next time you find yourself racing the clock, take a breath. Feel the pulse in your chest, steady, ancient, unhurried. The past is memory. The future is imagination. And what you call now is not a point between them, but the field in which they both arise. Every second you've ever lived, every tomorrow you will ever meet, is happening here, in the moment that never ends. Thank you for listening. This has been what we are. Until next time, stay awake to the wonder that has no time at all.